The containment chamber hissed open, and Commander Vrel's 3 hearts hammered in perfect synchrony. This was it. The moment the collective had been preparing for. 2 cycles of research, 3 planetary invasions worth of data, and enough chemical weapons testing to make a neutron star bleed. All for this. Subject entering the kill zone now. His second officer, Crix, announced from the observation deck above. Her voice carried that particular tremor of anticipation mixed with scientific curiosity. The kind you got right before watching something spectacular and possibly horrific. Through the reinforced viewing port, Vrel watched the human soldier step into the chamber. The creature wore what their databases called standard combat fatigues, which honestly looked more like glorified fabric wrappings than proper armor. No exoskeleton, no radiation shielding, just cloth and confidence. The human's identification tag read, Martinez, J. Corporal. Captured 3 days ago during the failed defense of Settlement 12. Young by human standards, maybe 25 rotations around their sun. Brown skin, dark hair cropped close to the skull, and eyes that seemed entirely too calm for someone about to become a test subject. Release compound Theta 9, Vrel commanded, trying to keep his voice steady. Professional. This was science, after all. Brutal, yes, but necessary. Crix pressed the activation sequence. Vents along the chamber walls opened with a pneumatic wheeze, flooding the sealed room with a pale green mist. Beautiful, really, in the way that certain poisonous plants were beautiful right before they killed you. The compound had been reverse-engineered from a toxin found on Balerax 4, where it had wiped out an entire battalion of Krellian warriors in under 2 minutes. They had made it stronger, deadlier, added a paralytic agent just for good measure. The humans called their planet Earth. They called themselves the dominant species. They had fought the collective to a standstill for 6 months, which was impressive but ultimately futile. This gas would change everything. Deploy it over their cities, watch their militaries crumble, accept their surrender within a week. Simple, clean, efficient. Vrel leaned closer to the viewing port, all 4 eyes fixed on Martinez. The human's nostrils flared as the gas reached him. Any second now, the convulsions would start. The screaming, the desperate clawing at throat and chest as lungs turned to liquid. The research team had been very thorough in documenting expected reactions. Martinez sniffed once, twice. His brow furrowed slightly. Then the absolute madman tilted his head back and inhaled deeply through his nose like he was sampling fine wine at some fancy establishment. Is that? Martinez paused, appearing to genuinely consider the question. Is that mint? Vrel felt his mandibles go slack. What? The gas. Martinez looked directly at the observation window, though Vrel knew the human couldn't possibly see through the one-way barrier. It smells like mint. You know, like those little candies? Or maybe toothpaste. The green kind, not the blue kind. Blue mint is fake mint. Everyone knows that. Crix frantically checked her instruments. Commander, the gas is at full concentration. Sensors confirm proper dispersal. The compound is definitely active. Increase the dosage, Vrel ordered, his voice climbing an octave higher than he intended. Double it. More vents opened. The green mist grew thicker, so dense that Martinez became a shadow within it. Surely now. Surely, Martinez coughed once. A small, polite cough. The kind you made when someone was talking during a presentation and you wanted them to stop without being rude about it. Okay, yeah, that's definitely mint, he said conversationally. Little strong, though. You guys might want to dial it back a notch. It's like aggressive mint. Mint that has something to prove. This is impossible. Crix's voice rose to a shriek. Her tendrils were turning that pale blue color that indicated severe stress. The compound killed a Krellian in 40 seconds. Krellians have redundant organ systems. This human should be dead 3 times over. Martinez started doing what appeared to be jumping jacks. Up, down, legs apart, legs together, arms up, arms down. Vrel had seen this in the cultural database. Human exercise. The creature was exercising in a chamber full of weaponized death gas. Actually helps clear the sinuses, Martinez called out between jumps. I had this cold last week. Couldn't breathe right for days. This is kind of nice. Refreshing, even. You guys taking requests? Maybe eucalyptus next time? That's supposed to be good for respiratory stuff. Vrel turned to Crix, all 4 eyes wide with something approaching panic. What do we do? I don't know. She was pulling up data screens frantically, calculations scrolling past too fast to read. According to every toxicology report, every biological analysis, every predictive model we have, he should be dead. Below them, Martinez had stopped exercising and was now examining his fingernails with mild interest. The gas swirled around him like he was standing in ordinary fog on some peaceful morning, not drowning in chemical death. "You know what?" Martinez said suddenly. "This reminds me of this thing we used to do in boot camp. Gas chamber training. They'd make us go into this room full of tear gas, take off our masks, recite our name and social security number. Absolute hell. Snot everywhere, eyes burning, the whole deal. But you build up a tolerance, you know? Human bodies are weird like that. Adaptable. Adaptable," Vrel repeated numbly. The word felt wrong in his mouth. Humans were supposed to be fragile, soft, easy to eliminate. Martinez looked up at the observation window again, and this time Vrel could swear the human was looking directly into his soul. "So," Martinez said with a grin that showed entirely too many white teeth. "What else you got?" Vrel's smallest heart skipped a beat, then 2 beats, then briefly considered stopping altogether out of sheer existential terror. This was not in the simulations. This was not in any of the collective's extensive databases on biological warfare. This was, and he hated to use the technical term, completely messed up. "Deploy compound Sigma-12, he ordered, his voice cracking like a juvenile during molting season. "The nerve agent." Crix's head tendrils went rigid. "Commander, that compound is banned under 17 different galactic conventions. It causes neural cascade failure in every carbon-based life form we have tested. Every single one. Even the Tarkelians, and they have distributed nervous systems." "Deploy it," Vrel repeated. He was beyond protocol now. Beyond sanity, possibly. This human had broken something fundamental in his understanding of biology, and he needed answers more than he needed to follow regulations written by bureaucrats who had never watched someone sniff deadly poison like it was a pleasant spring breeze. The vents hissed again. This time, the gas was colorless, odorless, invisible, which somehow made it more terrifying. Sigma-12 was designed to cross the blood-brain barrier in seconds, scramble every neural pathway, and turn thinking creatures into twitching vegetables before their bodies caught up and died. Quick, efficient, and absolutely horrifying. Perfect. Martinez stood there, arms crossed, waiting. 10 seconds passed. 20. 30. He yawned. An actual yawn. Mouth open, slight stretch of the arms, that little satisfied sound humans made when they were tired or bored. Vrel had studied thousands of hours of human behavior recordings, and that was definitely, unmistakably, a yawn of mild boredom. "Okay, I can't smell that one," Martinez said, sounding slightly disappointed. "Points for subtlety, I guess. But I'm not feeling much of anything. You sure it's working?" "The compound is at lethal concentration." Crix was now openly panicking, all 6 of her manipulator limbs flailing at her control panel. "Sensors confirm dispersion. The molecular structure is stable. It should be working." Martinez started walking around the chamber, examining the walls with mild curiosity. He ran his fingers along the seams, knocked on the reinforced panels, checked the corners like he was considering renting the place. "Nice construction," he commented. "Little sterile for my taste. Could use some pictures. Maybe a plant. One of those fake ones from the store, since real ones probably would not do great with all the poison gas." Just a thought. Vrel felt a headache forming behind his primary optical cluster. Humans were not supposed to provide interior decorating advice while being subjected to weapons-grade chemical attacks. That was not how this worked. That was not how any of this worked. "Sir," Crix said quietly, and there was something new in her voice now. Something that sounded suspiciously like fear. "I have been reviewing the data from the human biological studies. There are some notes here about their evolutionary history that we may have overlooked. Tell me, humans evolved on a Class 4 death world. The researchers noted it in passing but did not consider it significant because humans seem so fragile compared to other species from similar classifications." Vrel waved a manipulator impatiently. Yes, Earth. Excessive gravity, dangerous weather patterns, abundant predators. Standard death world features. What is your point?" "The point, Commander, is that Earth is not just dangerous because of large predators or natural disasters. The planet is chemically hostile. The researchers documented over 200,000 toxic plant species alone, venomous animals in every ecological niche, poisonous insects, toxic fungi, bacteria and viruses that wage constant warfare against complex life forms. She pulled up a holographic display. Images of Earth's biosphere flickered past. Colorful frogs that could kill with a touch. Plants that induced paralysis. Snakes that liquefied tissue with their bite. Spiders whose venom caused necrosis. Jellyfish that stopped hearts. And that was just the naturally occurring threats. Humans also intentionally consume toxins for pleasure. Crix continued, her voice rising with barely controlled hysteria. They drink ethanol, which is literally a poison, for recreational purposes. They eat capsaicin, which triggers pain receptors, because they enjoy the sensation. They smoke plant matter that damages their lungs and call it relaxing. They evolved alongside chemical warfare for millions of years, Commander. Their bodies are designed to filter, metabolize, and neutralize toxins as a basic survival function. Martinez had found a small access panel and was trying to pry it open with his fingernails. Hey, you guys got any water in here? All this breathing toxic gas is making me a little thirsty. Shut down the chamber, Vrel whispered. Sir, shut it down. Purge the gas. All of it. Now, Crix complied, her manipulators dancing across the controls. Ventilation fans roared to life, sucking the chemical compounds out of the chamber and into neutralization tanks. Clean air, or at least what passed for clean air on a collective warship, flooded in to replace the death that had failed so spectacularly to kill. Martinez stretched again, rolling his shoulders like an athlete after a light workout. So that the whole test? Because I gotta say, I was expecting something a little more intense. You guys hyped this up pretty good with all the ominous chamber and the dramatic gas release. But honestly, 3 out of 10. The mint was nice, but the second one did not do anything for me. Vrel turned to Crix. Prepare the biological samples. I want a full analysis of this human's cellular structure, metabolic processes, and genetic makeup. There has to be an explanation. Should we terminate the subject for dissection? Crix asked, though she sounded uncertain now, as if the word terminate had lost some of its confidence. They both looked down at Martinez, who had discovered he could make his voice echo in the chamber and was now singing something that sounded vaguely like a battle hymn, but with words about a grandmother and a river. No, Vrel said slowly. Not yet. I think we need to try something else first. What could we possibly try that would be more effective than our 2 most lethal chemical weapons? Vrel's mandibles clicked together in what might have been a smile or possibly a nervous breakdown. It was hard to tell. Get the flamethrowers. The armory on Deck 7 smelled like ozone and poorly maintained equipment, which gave Vrel a brief moment of comfort. At least something on this ship was behaving normally. Unlike the human. Unlike physics. Unlike his entire understanding of biological warfare, which had crumbled faster than a sand castle in a neutron storm. Commander, are you certain about this? Crix followed him down the corridor, her tendrils twitching nervously. Thermal weaponry seems, and I cannot believe I am saying this, less sophisticated than chemical compounds that failed completely. Sometimes simple is better, Vrel muttered, punching in his access code. The armory door slid open with a satisfying chunk. Rows of weapons gleamed under harsh lighting. Plasma rifles, molecular disruptors, graviton cannons. But Vrel walked past all of them to the far wall, where the older equipment lived. The stuff from before the collective got fancy with its warfare. The Mark 7 thermal projector sat in its rack like a relic from a more honest age of killing things. Point at target, pull trigger, apply extreme heat until target stops being a problem. No complex chemistry, no exotic particles, just good old-fashioned combustion and temperatures that could melt titanium. We are really doing this, Crix said flatly. We are really doing this, Vrel confirmed, hefting the weapon. It was heavier than he remembered. Or maybe he was just tired. Tired of surprises. Tired of humans defying every logical expectation. They hauled the thermal projector back to the testing wing. Martinez had been moved to Chamber 4, which had better heat shielding and, more importantly, was easier to clean afterward. The human sat cross-legged on the floor, apparently meditating or sleeping or possibly just existing in that weird state humans called chilling out. Subject secured, Vrel asked through the comm system. Negative, Commander, replied Draxus, the security officer monitoring the chamber. We attempted to restrain him, but he said, and I quote, "That would be super uncomfortable," and then he sat down in the middle of the room. He has not moved since. Vrel rubbed his eye clusters. Of course. Why would restraining a prisoner be simple? Why would anything involving this species be simple? Fine. Prepare to deploy thermal assault. Maximum intensity. Commander. Crix grabbed his arm with two of her tendrils. That temperature will turn organic matter into ash in seconds. Even with human durability, surely this will cross the line into actual murder. That is literally the point of weapons testing, Crix. But the galactic conventions, the ethical guidelines, the fact that we are supposed to be the civilized species here. Vrel gently removed her tendrils from his arm. The humans have been kicking our tails across 3-star systems for half a cycle, Crix. They took the 7th Fleet apart with projectile weapons that use controlled explosions to throw metal slugs. Controlled explosions. Technology we abandoned 2,000 years ago. Forgive me if I am feeling somewhat less civilized at the moment. He activated the thermal projector and aimed it through the reinforced port at Martinez, who had opened his eyes and was watching with interest. "Oh hey, is that a flamethrower?" Martinez called out, actually sounding excited. "Nice. We have those too. Mostly for clearing vegetation and, making really bad tactical decisions that look awesome on camera." Vrel pulled the trigger. A column of superheated plasma erupted from the projector, filling the chamber with a roar like an angry sun. The temperature gauge on his heads-up display climbed rapidly. 500 degrees. 1,000. 2,000. The air itself seemed to scream. The reinforced walls glowed dull red from the heat bleed. Through the thermal distortion, Vrel could barely make out Martinez's silhouette. The human had stood up and was backing away from the flame, which was at least a rational response. Finally, some normal self-preservation instinct. Okay. Martinez's voice came through the calm, distorted by the heat, but still somehow maintaining that infuriatingly casual tone. "That is hot. That is definitely hot. Not gonna lie, this one has some kick." Vrel kept the trigger down. The projector's coolant systems whined in protest. The chamber temperature hit 3,000 degrees. Steel melted at less than that. Bone vaporized. Flesh turned to carbon ash. "Commander, we need to shut it down." Crix was checking her instruments frantically. "The chamber's structural integrity is at 60%. We are going to breach containment. 5 more seconds. Still pretty hot in here." Martinez shouted over the roar, getting a little uncomfortable. "My uniform is definitely not regulation anymore. Pretty sure I just lost my eyebrows. For seconds. Is this what you guys do for fun? Because this seems expensive. And dangerous. Mostly expensive though. 3 seconds. You know what this reminds me of? This one time in Arizona, middle of summer, our transport broke down. We sat there for 4 hours waiting for pickup. In full gear. That was miserable. This is like that, but faster. 2 seconds. Could really use that water now. 1 second. Vrel released the trigger. The flames died. The roar faded to a high-pitched whine as the projector's systems cycled down. Smoke filled the chamber, thick and black and smelling of burnt everything. The ventilation kicked in. The smoke cleared. Martinez stood in the center of the chamber, his uniform reduced to charred tatters hanging off his frame. His skin was red, like a bad sunburn, and he was missing most of his hair. But he was standing, moving, patting himself down to check for damage. "Okay, that one gets a 7 out of 10, Martinez announced, his voice a little hoarse, but still functional. "Definitely felt that. Gonna need some aloe vera or something. Maybe a new uniform. And definitely that water I mentioned." Vrel dropped the thermal projector. It hit the deck with a clang that seemed very loud in the sudden silence. "This is not possible," he whispered. Martinez looked up at the observation window. Even with the red skin and missing eyebrows and charred clothing, he managed to look almost sympathetic. "Look, I get it," the human said. "You guys did your research, built your weapons, had your plans. But here is the thing about humans that maybe did not make it into your files." He walked closer to the window, limping slightly, but still moving under his own power. "We are from Earth. Earth does not care about your plans. Earth does not care about what should be possible. Earth throws hurricanes and earthquakes and volcanoes at us just for existing. We have been dealing with hostile environments since we climbed down from the trees. Heat, Cold, poison, radiation? Those are just Tuesday on our planet. Martinez grinned, and despite everything, despite the fear and confusion and complete collapse of his worldview, Vrel found himself leaning back from that smile. So whatever else you got planned, whatever test comes next, bring it on. Because I promise you, Earth already tried to kill me way harder than you guys ever will. So what did you think? Did this story surprise you? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this sci-fi story, please hit the like button. It really helps the channel grow. And don't forget to subscribe for more mind-blowing science fiction stories every week. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story. Rocket.